Hello. Welcome back. Hope everybody's had a good last 2 weeks since the last stream. Uh, Nothing like clicking the unmute button on your overlay here, and then you switch scenes, and that wasn't the channel you meant to unmute. Who knows what has been unmuted? I guess we will find out what eldritch sounds will come through this stream. But hi, I hope everybody's having a good time. I hope you're having a good weekend. So far, so good for me. It was a short week this week, thankfully. Um, Whenever I do any of these traveling things, like where I have to, I can't stream on the weekend. I've been meaning to take an extra day for travel and for like recuperation afterwards, and it's been a really good idea. I'm gonna keep doing it because it's otherwise everything is just way too hectic. Anyway, it's been a little while, and if you know anything about me, you know that I drag out the Voodoo cards when I've run out of ideas. At least when it comes to streaming. But I think a couple of folks asked like how the Voodoo 5 would perform on the Super Socket 7 system. Way back when I debuted this card. This card, of course, will hop over to the bench so you can see it. This is a donation, a very kind donation from Garth Beagle. I think is not in the chat yet. He'll probably be here midway through the stream. But there's the beastie, of course, looking at it top down. It is a Voodoo 5 5500, 64 meg, and it is very fast. It's very fast. When I first debuted the card, after receiving it and testing that it was, had survived shipment, I threw it on my AGP test bench, which is an ECS K7S5A with a 2.133 gigahertz Athlon on it, and turns out, as we were going through it in chat, I was informed that that's basically the fastest platform you can run a Voodoo 5 on. So we already saw it perform its best. So we're gonna see it have some struggles today. This is the Epoch's MVP 3C. This is a VIA MVP3 board, so Super Socket 7. We've got AGP, PCI, and ISA on a Socket 7 chipset, or Socket 7 CPU connector. And the CPU that is running the show today is a K62 Plus, running at 600 megahertz, which is 30 megahertz overclock from what's rated. So this is not quite a donation. I bought this from a viewer and a friend who gave me a really good deal on it, and it's just a superb motherboard. The MVP3 wasn't the fastest Super Socket 7 board out there at the time. The chipset wasn't the fastest Super Socket 7 chipset you could get. Generally, if you could find one without bugs, that was agreed to be the Aladdin 5 from ALI. If you could find one without bugs, because there were a lot of motherboards out there that used the ALI 5 and had bugs, and were not great. But the MVP3 is no slouch. It's no slouch. And this thing is just a phenomenally fun platform to work with. I think the last time we saw it, I think actually might have been for the tracker music thing, because this was my only Socket 7 motherboard that would actually like behave. I have since fixed a couple of them, or had folks fix a couple of them. So I have more than one that functions at this point, but that was pretty funny. Running a Pentium 133 on a board this powerful was kind of a hilarious thing to do. But this is this board really stretching its legs. This is pretty much the fastest thing you can put in this board. We are using the hidden 6x multiplier on the K62 Plus. If you didn't know, K62s from I think the 350 megahertz version all the way up through the 550s. If you set them to 2x multiplier, you get a 6x multiplier. So if you put it on a 100 megahertz board, you have the potential to overclock it up to 600 megahertz. And that's no different for the K62 Plus here that has the special on-die level 2 cache. If you don't know, we'll do a quick rundown real quick on the K6 that I pictured in the thumbnail. We'll show you the thumbnail here. Boop. That's a K6-1. I put it in there because it's really photogenic with its nice, you know, black silk screening on the aluminum heat spreader. It's really cool. But the K6 has, you've got the original K6 with just MMX. You've got the K62, which has 3D Now, which is AMD's kind of attempt to make a set of symmetric, or single instruction, multiple data instructions in sort of in competition with SSE on the Pentium 3. They were kind of different instructions, though. Both served sort of different purposes. I think there's like a small handful of things that actually take advantage of 3D Now. But so that was the K62, otherwise largely unchanged. There was a die shrink there that let the K62 get into, a couple of die shrinks there, that let the K62 climb to much higher speeds than the original K6. But largely an unchanged architecture other than the addition of 3D Now. But then there was the K6-3, which was a K62 with a fairly substantial amount of on-die level 2 cache, 256K. However, because of all the extra transistors, it never could really get very far in terms of clock scaling. So I think the fastest that was ever released was a 450, but most of them topped out at like 350 or 400 megahertz. And where that brings us to today is that they made a die shrunk mobile-friendly version. This was back when AMD was stuffing full-size desktop CPUs into laptops because they didn't really have a mobile CPU program at the time. So they basically would just bin their CPUs really well and then throw the ones that binned out well into laptops. It didn't make a huge difference in the K6 era, but that's what ended up spurring on what ended up spawning the Athlon XP-M, if you remember that, back in like 2001, 2002, where you could pick up a mobile Athlon XP, and it had an unlocked multiplier because it was a mobile chip and needed to be able to clock itself down, but also it was really well binned, because that was how AMD was making their mobile chips at the time. It was a desktop chip just with a really good bin and in a desktop socket. And you could just yoink one of those and stick it in your desktop PC and overclock the snot out of it. But basically, they're doing the same thing with the K62 Plus. So they had the K62 Plus, the K63 Plus, both based on the K63's core. The 2 Plus gets half of its level 2 cache disabled, and the K63 Plus retains the 256K. So we've got a K62 Plus here, with the disabled level 2 cache, so we've got 128K of on-die level 2 cache, and then a half a meg on the motherboard is level 3 cache, which makes it a really interesting processor. It's pretty quick, honestly. There are, of course, I'd say a year ago, I think, there are a bunch of videos that went around showing how you can like solder on some traces on the circuit. You know, if you pop the heat spreader off of the K62 Plus, you expose all of the internal bridges and capacitors and resistors and everything on top of the ceramic substrate. And if you bridge some of those, you can return a K62 Plus to its K63 Plus origin, which is interesting. I haven't done that yet on this CPU, but it is something that's on my to-do list to turn this into a 3 Plus. There isn't a ton of performance that you get from this. This is still back in the era when having even just 128K of on-die level 2 cache was a pretty good thing from a games performance perspective. If you remember the original Intel Celeron, which had no level 2 cache, and then they brought out the Celeron A that had 128K of level 2 cache, and just the amount of speed increase that you got just from that 128K basically rendered the original Pentium 2s obsolete at that point. Like, you didn't need that half a meg of backside level 2 cache, it turned out, for the Pentium 2. The 128K on the Celeron was plenty for like Quake 2, even Quake 3 and Doom 3 back in the day. So we've got a real fast Socket 7 machine, and we've got a really fast DirectX 6 graphics card in it. So let's see what we can make this thing do, huh? That's the idea. Let's say hi to everybody in chat. Clark John 1 Plus is here. Hello, welcome back. David Starbuck is here. Hello, welcome, welcome to the stream. HC is here. Hello, welcome back to the stream. Also Pickle. Hello, Pickle. You made it. Welcome back. We will be looking at that socket 5 board that you fixed for me, Pickle. No worries, that will be happening. It was going to happen this week, but bringing up a board that old means that I needed to get some smaller SD cards for my SD to IDE, and they just didn't arrive in time. I've got like a stack of like 2 GB ones. I need some 1 GB ones for that one to work. Same with, there's a board right behind me here in this green, you can see it behind my chair, that I wanted to do this week as well. And again, I need some older hardware to get it to bring it up, and it's going to take some more time. Which is why we're doing a Voodoo. When I run out of time, or I run out of ideas, I do the Voodoo. The Voodoo that you do. Alright, Starbuck Tech is here. Hello, welcome. Nigel Rhodes is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. Nigel Rhodes says, I am on the search for a K62 Plus or a 3 Plus. I bought this one as part of a 3-pack, and I don't know if that seller on eBay is still doing this, but it's a pretty good deal. Considering, I mean, you have to buy 3 of them, but like the price per is pretty decent. If you can sell them to other friends that might need them, you can make back some of that money. But I forget the name of the seller, but that's where I got mine. It was a seller on eBay who's selling them in 3-packs because they've apparently got like a whole bunch of extra ones, and they're the real deal. Those are the ones that were going around last year with the cache disable or the cache re-enable trick. Who else is here? We've got Johnny Chang. Hello, welcome to the stream. Yeah, the Johnny Chang says the hook for the Pentium 2 Celeron is that it skipped the half bus speed external L2 cache, made it faster for OC. Yes, they were much more capable overclockers because you didn't have to worry about that external level 2 cache. Indeed. Yeah, Pickle says they snagged one of those K62 Pluses. Yeah, if they're still out there, they're a terrific deal. Just, even if you don't have a board to run them on yet, just snag them, make sure you have them, and you can find a board that'll run them later. Johnny Chang asks, was the Duron CPU more similar to Thunderbird or the K62? Pickle says Thunderbird. Pickle is correct. The Duron was basically an Athlon that just had some of its level 2 cache disabled. That's how AMD made that one. It is, which is why it was such a terrific deal, because like the Athlon was a pretty great gaming CPU, and a cheaper Athlon in the form of the Duron was just what people were looking for. Using a Duron for like an entry-level gaming PC was a nice time. It was a nice time. Eventually, AMD differentiated the Duron from the Athlon more by restricting the clock speeds that the Duron would be sold at, and that didn't stop anybody because they were still really good overclockers, and they were still based on the same process as the full-fat Athlons. So they can still hit full-fat Athlon speeds most of the time. Yeah, the Duron was a good chip. I'm not surprised they stopped selling them. So Reliefman is here. The old YouTube account still has my ancient username. Nice. Nice. Okay, so Nigel says, so this is the other thing. This is why that's why these K6s have, the K62s from like the 350 onwards, it's why they have this hidden 6x multiplier. Nigel Rhodes hits on this. Nigel says, my current socket 7 board does not do the faster clock speeds, so it tops out at 400 megahertz, and that's why AMD put these in there. Because if you have a board that can run a K62, but it can't do a 100 megahertz bus, you can use that 2x multiplier to get a 6x multiplier, and at 66 megahertz, that's 400 megahertz. You can still accelerate your old PC. It's a pretty cool idea, and of course, if you were a try-hard overclocker, yeah, that 6x multiplier was magical. Aha! Silver Leafman says, this is gone. I know who you are. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Alright. Pickle says, Nigel needs a hacked BIOS. Nice. Maybe. It's possible that the clock gen doesn't do it. The clock gen on the board doesn't do it, but I've been digging into these clock generator chips, and like you could probably solder some jumper leads onto the clock gen chip and just make it do what you want it to do. It's probably likely. If you look up the datasheet for that for your clock gen chip, clock gen chips are not difficult to spot on a board. Let's see if we can find the clock gen on this board. If I switch over to the desk cam here, can we spot the clock gen? Not with all the cables in the way. There it is, right there. You see it? You can't see it. You see that right there? That one right there. That's the clock gen chip. You can see it's got a reference crystal next to it. It's got all these. It's like a long chip with a bunch of pins coming off it. It's what every frickin' clock gen from this generation looks like. It's what they all look like. Just throw that datasheet into Google or DuckDuckGo, and Bob's your uncle. You'll find out what those pins do, and you can just solder those pins either to ground or to plus 3 volts, 5 volts, 12 volts, whatever they need, if they need to be pulled high or low, and voila, you can get whatever clock speeds you want out of your clock gen chip, assuming it can generate the clock speeds that you need. All right. Enough talking. Let's fire this thing up and play some games on a Voodoo. Switch over to the right scene here. There we go. All right, pushing the button. There we go. Got my super loud Socket 7 ball bearing fan cooler going. Sorry about that. BIOS detects it as a 598 megahertz. It's not. So the stock clock speed on this is 570. It's meant to be run on an 83 megahertz frontside bus with the 6x multiplier. But that's not what we're doing. That is not what we're doing. So the first thing I'm going to do is run SpeedSys on this. So let's open up DOSBench and we'll run SpeedSys. I don't think Ryzen 9 3900 XT is not here, but he'll appreciate this. But also, you can see how this thing identifies itself. So you can see at the top, we are running an AMD K62 Plus at 600 megahertz. It is a Sharptooth at 0.18 micrometer. Level 2 cache, 128 kilobytes, and we've got MMX and 3D Now support. Johnny Chang asks, what is the fastest that a K62 can go? There are a couple of boards out there that have some really hot clock gens on them and can do 105, 110, 112, 117 megahertz frontside buses. And that's what you need to push this faster, right? Because this 6x clock multiplier on the chip itself, on the CPU, that's the fastest one you've got on the K6, on any of the K6s. So at that point, if you want to go faster, you need more bus speed. And at that point, you're looking at like chipset quality and motherboard quality, because you're going to be running some fast signals through the traces on the motherboard. And then, you know, what kind of a clock gen has the motherboard manufacturer actually put in the, you know, into the motherboard? Are you limited to 100 megahertz? Like this one tops out at 100. It won't go any higher. But there are certainly MVP3 boards out there that could do 105, 110, 112, 115, 117. Supposedly, at some point, there's a board that could do 133. That's like unobtainium these days. A Super Socket 7 does 133 is complete unobtainium. But you run into some weird issues when you get to higher clock speeds than normal, because this clock gen chip, right, it generates your primary frontside bus clock speed, and then you've got another like secondary clock gen that takes care of like the ISA bus clock speed and the PCI bus clock speed and the, you know, the memory clock speed. It's usually that's tied to your frontside bus. So now you need SD RAM that can run at your 117 megahertz, your 133 megahertz. And then that secondary clock gen is also going to do your AGP clock speed, which is a lot of cards are really sensitive to an AGP bus that's faster than like 66 megahertz or whatever. I remember fondly back when running like a 440BX, if you overclock the frontside bus from 100 megahertz to 133, because a lot of them could do it quite easily, you'd have to deal with, you know, your AGP slot now was running, instead of at 66 megahertz, running at 83 megahertz. And what video cards could handle that, right? Like, these particular TNT2s could do it, or these particular Voodoo cards could do 83 megahertz on the AGP slot. And it's a big experiment to go past the 100 megahertz on Super Socket 7 or the 133 ceiling on 133 on Socket 370, 100 megahertz on slot 1, because that's your official maximum bus speeds. But it's certainly doable, and you can get a lot of performance out of it. I didn't do that back in the day. I've talked about my overclocked Celeron before, but I took a 66 megahertz Coppermine Celeron, so that I had the 128K of on-die cache with SSC, so it's based off of a Pentium 3, and I overclocked it from a 66 megahertz frontside bus to a 100 megahertz frontside bus. So my AGP slot ended up staying normal speed. It stayed in spec, but you know, I still got a pretty big boost out of the performance there, going from a slower bus speed to a faster bus speed. And we'll run a quick Quake time demo here, so y'all can see how it does software Quake. It's a little fast, sort of a fast machine. She's a little quick. Oh, what is that? The dog is covering it. It's 88.8 frames per second. Man, when this baby hits 88 frames per second, you can see some serious shit. So that's alright. That's all we're going to do in DOS. That's all we're going to do in DOS. It's all Windows today. So let's reboot this into Windows 98. We're running around like a madwoman this morning, trying to get all the drivers installed and things. Win 98 was fighting me this morning. Unbelievable. So this, I'll be honest, like, this machine, as fast as it is, could probably be okay with just a Voodoo 3. Just a Voodoo 3. It wouldn't need a Voodoo 5. I mean, maybe you like running your you know, early Windows 98 games at 1600 by 1200. Who am I to tell you not to do that? Voodoo 5 certainly has the fill rate to do that. Certainly has the fill rate to do that. Oh yeah, so we were doing Matrox things last time on this machine. Matrox Power Desk has decided that it should run. It is incorrect. It is incorrect. So, we've got some stuff here that you may not have seen before, such as, yes, Hydro Thunder. I found an install of Hydro Thunder. That works. I can spell Hydro Thunder. Why don't we take a look at that first? Because it's pretty great. This is one of my favorite games from back in the day. I played this on my Dreamcast like all the time. Let's go into full screen, please. Graphics, why are you windowed? What? Direct 3D, go. For some reason, this has started in a window, and I don't know why. I just tested it like 5 minutes ago, and it was running great, and now it's like, yeah, nope, I'm gonna start in a window. Direct 3D unavailable. Great, great. What is going on now? Unbelievable. Oh, Windows. Windows, Windows, Windows. Like I was saying, this thing's been fighting me all morning. Why is it? Ah! I just ran this and it ran great. What do you mean Direct 3D unavailable? What is going on with this thing? OpenGL works. Okay. Just playing some Unreal Tournament on this. I know that works. Unbelievable. Gotta love Windows 98, right? Collider Direct 3D. Let's do Direct 3D so we can try the 32-bit rendering. Pixelpipe says, does DirectX need to be reinstalled? It might. You know, like I went to install daemon tools because someone on Vogon's drivers packaged these Voodoo 5 drivers as a bin queue instead of an ISO. If it's an ISO, you can just open it with 7-zip. You don't even need to mount the image. So I go to install daemon tools, and then daemon tools is like, hey, you don't have the Windows Installer 2.0 installed. That's right, you gotta install the installer. Then you can install it. Alright, let's do this at 800 by 600. Yes, thank you. And we'll do 32-bit, because we have a Voodoo 5. Heck yeah, there we go. Turn up all the details, because it's a Voodoo 5. Beautiful. Forgot how slow the mouse is on this. There we go. Jeez, the mouse is slow. Oh, jeez. Oh, and none of my controllers are bound. Really? It's one of those days. One of those days. Input and mouse sensitivity. Let's make you 7. That's better. Okay, that's more like it. Oh. Get some real frame drops there in the middle. Not a fight we're gonna win. Nope. Ha! Gotcha anyway. Well, that's not super promising. That frame rate down there. Ooh, that's rough. That is rough. Although I will be completely honest, that's reminds me of playing games on my K62 back in the day. It was just not. It was great until it wasn't. Ran out of steam real fast. Bye-bye. Overall though, running pretty nicely. Got some nice looking graphics on screen. Oh. Killed. Alright. So DirectX is definitely working. I'm gonna try reinstalling Directory because who knows? Who knows? Maybe that's what it is. Windows 98, there's always something. Let's see, where's my install directory? Install DirectX. Where's my DirectX? There it is. Nigel says that my SR440BX with onboard TNT2 would do 133 megahertz no problem. That's awesome. That's awesome. And at that point, you know, you've already got a TNT2 on there, even if it is like a Model 64. Not too bad. Not too bad. Okay, let's see if Hydro Thunder's gonna play ball this time. Let's see. Come on, you. Yeah, that's more like it. That's more like it. We should have... Yes, beautiful. Look at that! Look at that! That brings back so many memories. It's one of the first games I got for my Dreamcast was Hydro Thunder, because I played it in the arcade a bunch and it was just so much fun. It's just such a silly, fast racing game. It makes no sense, and I love it. Let's see how bad I am. It's been years and years. Oh wow, look at all the tracks they've got in here. Castle Von Dandy. Oh. I remember the Arctic Circle track. That's really, really pretty. The Banshee was the boat that I used the most. I don't know what the controls are at all. Looks like up is accelerate, left and right are steer. Yes, the arrow keys. I have no idea what the, we've got a huge lens flare on the screen. I have no idea what it's for. But you know, it's the 90s. Just throw a lens flare on there. Who needs to know what it's for? It's fine. I also don't know what the boost key is. Oh boy. Oh boy. Missed that one. Let's see if the spacebar does it. Do we have the reflection? We do! We have the reflection! Excellent. It's not a real reflection, it's just duplicated geometry under the water. But, you know, I didn't know that at the time. Still looks good. Who needs ray tracing? Alright, let's see if this spacebar gives me a boost. It sure does. Or no, it changes my camera. What is the boost key? A, no, Z, no. Shift is boost. There we go. Heck yeah, that's more like it. Oh, this game. This game is classic. So good and it's so bad. I love it so much. This run's alright on here, I gotta say. Taken out. Taken out. Fifth place. Hey, there you go. Not awful. Nice. Nice. This is going to be a default install on all of my Windows 98 machines now, because this is amazing. There we go. Cool. That's awesome. Oh, what a treat. What a treat. So we've got a couple of staples here. Serious Sam, of course. Gotta run Serious Sam on this. Let's run that now. And we've got Half-Life. Get the demo of Half-Life, because, you know, Steam. But, Half-Life Uplink still should be pretty representative of what Half-Life would do on a card like this, on a system like this. The cracking noises you hear in the background are not the card exploding. I have a 3D print that's cooling off on the build plate. PC Sound Legacy is here. Hello. Welcome to the stream. Loading up Serious Sam here. I think I accidentally clicked, so we're going to the second demo instead of the first one. My mistake. Yeah, it made us load stuff twice. Oh, those drivers are unhappy. Drivers are unhappy with this game. Let's see if we can make this run in OpenGL. So they'll run better. Let's see. This is the same issue that we had with the Banshee, where we had like weird color artifacts on some of the textures. Let's see, is this running in? It is running in OpenGL. Well, let's try Direct3D, because this is a fully compliant Direct3D card. We'll make it 32-bit, because it's got plenty of fill rate, that's for sure. The question is, yeah, there we go. The question is, how are the Direct3D drivers? And the answer is not great. The answer is not great. Oh, bummer. Let's get to restart here. Yeah, Steam basically doesn't run on anything except current versions of Windows and then of, you know, whatever works on Linux. So like, it's a Steam's super convenient, right? Except if you want to test like iconic games from back in the day that are locked inside Steam, you're stuck with whatever platform Steam will run on. Or you get like hacked binaries for Steam, which not great. I don't want to put my credentials in that. No, thank you. All right, so we've got OpenGL again. Let's go back to 32-bit. Let's see if this works. Yes, maybe? Yes, fantastic. Okay. Nose itches like crazy. Sorry, I keep twitching my nose. We had a really, really humid day yesterday. It rained for most of the day, which was nice because it hit like 103 the day before. So it was really nice to have the cool off, but like everything is blooming now. There's so much pollen in the air. All right, let's see it run a demo and let's see what it does. Let's do the one we were just looking at. See how bad those textures are. It shouldn't be awful, but I don't know. Bacchus, hello, welcome to the stream. Good to see ya. I know my streams line up kind of weirdly with Europe. I get a lot of European viewers, because something about when I run my streams that it lines up nicely over there, I guess. No, we still got the weird discolored textures. It's got to be a driver thing, because there's no, it's 32-bit, you know, color depth. It's got tons of video memory. Yeah, and you can see like there's geometry missing on Sam's arm on the first person view model. It's got to be a driver issue. 100% got to be a driver issue. It's probably the biggest letdown, honestly, with the Voodoo 5, is that driver development basically just stopped when 3DFX died. And there's a bunch of games that it should be perfectly capable of running that don't work so well. Because they're driver bugs. That is unfortunate. Still, again, like I was saying, we're not pushing this card, really. We could run this at like 1600 by 1200. I don't think we would see the frame rate drop. The bottleneck today is going to be the K6. Even though it's a K62 plus with on-die level 2 cache, running at 600 megahertz on a 100 megahertz frontside bus, with synchronized, SD RAM at 100 megahertz, it's still the bottleneck for sure with this card. It's such a monster card. A little disappointed that the image quality is no better than the Banshee. That's kind of frustrating. Let's see, what else? What else? Forsaken, doesn't matter, it's gonna run like crazy. Monster Truck Madness 2, do that. Where is the darn binary? Nope. It's not setup.exe, is it? Did I copy the installer? I copied the installer. Darn it! Okay, let's see if it'll do this. I'm going to change this directory to install. I really need to organize my stuff better. Install. There we go. Let's run that installer real quick. Get some Monster Truck Madness on here. Can type. Come on, there we go. Games win MTN2. Everything. Go. Nigel asks, do the old clients still work? So, a couple of years ago I looked into it to try and get Steam running, especially on like Windows XP, for like XP era games like Half-Life 2, the original release on XP or Vista, and yeah, there were some old releases that people had been hanging on to that you could like install in place and then prevent it from updating, and it would still connect to the Steam servers, and you could still like log in and authenticate and then run your games, but like it's still like you gotta hope that this person hasn't like injected a keylogger into any of the DLLs or anything like that. Like, I didn't try it out. I prefer to keep my my Steam credentials. I'm sure you can understand. Pickle says, it was really magic when you were running Quake software at 320 by 200 and then threw in a Voodoo card and saw what GL Quake could do. Absolutely. Absolutely. Sloopy Malibu is here. Hello, welcome to the stream. And Sloopy says, the benefits of the 8-bit generation, no DRM. No, but there is also copy protection, don't forget. Get some weird sectors on your floppy disks, and you gotta make, flux level copies of the disk for it to work. CRTified is here. Hello. Hello, welcome to the stream. Johnny Chang says, complete install, just offloading the soundtrack files from the CD-ROM and making the load time faster. Yeah, basically it loads everything off of the disk onto your install drive. This one's This copy might have been from the high seas. So we don't have to worry about inserting the CD that, you know, I don't even have a CD-ROM drive attached to this machine. But it should work fine. See? Yeah, there we go. No worries. Oh yeah, don't forget, mid-90s, we gotta have CG, right? We gotta have some CGI cutscenes in our game, even though it makes no sense. Because it's, you know, it's 1997. It's important. Everyone else is doing it. Alright, there we go. So let's look at the settings. So we changed this over to, oh look at this, we've got direct 3D mode and we have a direct glide mode right here. So being a Voodoo 5, you can run it in glide if you want. I think that might, we can try either actually. Oh, this won't let me change the resolution though. Let's see, alright, yep, that's fine. Let's turn on everything. Complex, everything's on there, tire tracks, smoke effects, image quality high, and we'll run in direct 3D. It won't let me change the resolution, unfortunately, but I guess we'll see what that looks like. Just let it run a demo and see what the thing looks like. Yeah, exactly. Pre-rendered CGI, you gotta have it, right? So that's interesting. So I think we ran this last time when we were comparing a whole bunch of budget 3D cards. And, you know, we threw in the Banshee and we got, you know, distance fog. Distance fog. And it looks like we don't get that here. I'm gonna guess we get it if we switch over to the glide mode. That it'll do the distance fog. So let's check that out. If I go options, graphics, we switch it to 3D effects. I think it keeps everything else. Yes, everything else is turned on. Run demo. Hey! Love that logo. Go. Do we have distance fog? No. Interesting. I thought VSA 100 would retain the fog table emulation. That the, well, I guess it's not emulation on an SST Voodoo. It's native. That's interesting. Whoops, that AI driver didn't work. Whoopsies. All right, let's see. Try a different map and see if it. Scrapyard one, I think, has... There we go, foggy. Let's do foggy and see if it does the distance fog. Oh god, your controllers just have the keyboard. I have no idea what the controls are. This will be great. This will be great. So I think last time we looked at this, I just ran demos. Oh, hey, there we go. Full fog. It's fine. Apparently the rain stage didn't have fog for some reason. Because that makes sense. Now we've got fog, and it looks great. I want to try this in direct 3D mode too, and see if it'll still do the fog. Because like DirectX had support for fog, for table fog, and then on NVIDIA cards it was emulation. I don't remember if it was native on ATI, but of course it was native on 3D effects. Oh no! No! Of course, it was native on 3D effects. It was one of those sweet hacks that they came up with when they made the first Voodoo. Because everybody had fog in their game, and then like, hey, if you just have a fog table with like a color and a value, you just have to do a quick depth compare, and it's a piece of cake to do fog. Yes, this looks like it's running just fine. Uh-oh. I don't know what that is, but I ran into it. We got our fog, we got headlight beams. This is just kind of charming in its simplicity. There's no multi-texturing. There's very little lighting. We got a little fog. We got some transparent textures, and that's about it. I wonder what the keys are for the camera. Is that... It's not 1, 2, 3. Not C, it's not spacebar. Uh-oh. Oh no, pay attention to where I'm driving. Oh, here we go. D? That looks like that is just an optimized first-person view. Oh, there we go. Whoops. Definitely rolled that sucker. Whoopsies. That is V key. Brings us the third person view. Got our, is that our legally distinct Goodyear blimp up in the sky there? Oh jeez. No. That's a terrible camera angle. That's a worse camera angle. Oh, amazing. Jeez. Alright, so V cycles through all of your camera views, including the ones that are not helpful. It's good to know. Good to know. Alright, so this is running fine on Glide, which I'd be surprised if it wasn't, because it's Glide. So let's do Direct 3D and see what it does. Oh, I must... Oh, if you've already used 3D effects, you have to exit and restart. Okay. Alright, I can read. Yeah, it's gonna do it for me. It's gonna do it for me. Alright. Illegal operation. Illegal! Alright, so there's Direct 3D. All of our settings are the same. Okay, good. It saved everything. Okay, so... Crazy 98. Let's set it to foggy. If we have fog. Here we do. Direct 3D and we have got fog. I like the vertex specular. That's nice. It's a nice touch. Because we don't have enough polygons for real vertex specular, but it's gonna try it anyway. I appreciate it, game. That's wow. I mean, if this model was like, you know, 10 times the polygons, sure, vertex specular would look great. This runs just fine. Just fine, which makes sense. This is not exactly a cutting-edge game by the standards of the Voodoo 5. But we do have our fog. That's what I was looking for. Alright, let's stop boring y'all with this. Nice, nice. What else? What else we got? Oh, this is... That's right, this crashed and it screwed up my desktop resolution. Let's change that back. Are you sure you want to change this? Like, you changed it for me automatically without asking because you crashed, so it's probably fine. Let's do some Quake 3. So this should run just fine. This is like Voodoo's bread and butter. If you're a serious Quakeist, you would get a 3DFX card because, well, the 3DFX. I wonder if it'll let... There's a thing in whenever you change your video mode in Quake 3, because this would have come out, this is the demo, so this would have come out before the Voodoo 5 existed. But if you try and set trilinear on a Voodoo, Quake says no. Let's try this. Let's do default and trilinear. It says no, and it prints an error in the log in the console. This is not setting trilinear on a Voodoo. Is it in there? Hang on. Oh, there we go. Mesa Glide for Voodoo 5. We've got some optimized drivers on here. Haha. Maybe it's fine. S3TC not found. I'm not seeing it saying not setting. Yeah, there you go. Texture mode. GL linear, mipmap linear. That is trilinear filtering. So yeah, we are good. Okay, let's time demo 1. We'll set our max FPS to 0, even though that's not going to be a problem with the K62 Plus. Max FPS 0. And let's demo. This is the demo version, so it should be demo 1. No, it's not. Oh, 001. That's it. 001. There we go. Do fog is pretty zen. Just do fog, it's fine. Yeah, Johnny Chang asks, Quake Engine is more friendly with OpenGL drivers. Yeah, so Quake, early on, John Carmack, wrote the Quake Engine to run in software rendering on DOS, right? And then 3D cards started coming out, and the most promising of those was the rendition Verite, and he actually wrote a hardware accelerated version of Quake for the Verite called V-Quake. The thing is that at the time, you had a whole bunch of manufacturers with their own proprietary like APIs. You had S3 with I think S3D first, and then Metal once the Savage came out. You had of course 3D effects with Glide. You had Rendition had Renderware and one other one. Our Redline was their other one. But all these cards had like their own native API, and you had to rewrite your rendering engine to target any of these cards natively back in DOS. So part of the thing was Microsoft wanted to make DirectX and Direct3D to circumvent that, right? So you could have one API and talk to all of these graphics cards. But then also, that already existed for like almost a decade at that point. SGI had OpenGL, or I guess SGI-GL, IrisGL was SGI's, their graphics API. I was just glancing at this thing running, and that was an abysmal showing. I'm gonna run that again, because that was awful. There was so much lag in there. I think it was loading stuff off the SD card. Anyway, so you had SGI who made IrisGL to run their graphics cards. And it was actually like one of the 3DFX guys who ported IrisGL to a software reference implementation, which didn't make any sense at the time, because like all it did was run SGI graphics boards. But once you had, he knew once you had a software reference for a rendering API, you could build other hardware towards it and like target it as a middleware. And like, here's your perfect reference implementation. See how close you can get your hardware to it, right? To get acceleration and image quality benefits. So that eventually turned into OpenGL. And so OpenGL was already, this API layer between hardware, acceleration hardware and games, right? So you have your game over here, and it needs to talk to a hardware card over here. You can either do like S3 Metal or 3DFX Glide or Rendition R Redline, or you can instead go through DirectX or OpenGL to talk to the card. Anyway, way back when the original Quake was being made, OpenGL acceleration became kind of a thing, and that's what John Carmack ended up using for the API. Because when he made GL Quake, DirectX didn't really exist. Like the first versions were just starting to come out. He had access to the beta API, and he's famously panned the original DirectX API as terrible, convoluted, no fun to program in. He vastly preferred OpenGL as a programmer. So that's why Quake ended up being an OpenGL accelerated game. And of course Quake 2 did as well, because why not? They did it for the last one. Same with Quake 3. And I think with Doom 3 as well. I don't think there was it goes on to today, right? Like if you try and if you want to play Doom 2016 or Doom Eternal, you're going to be running them on Vulkan, which is the successor to OpenGL. So, it has always kind of done that. They've kind of just been like we're going to go this way, and we don't really care what direction everyone else is going. So, 21.7 FPS, and that is, I can guarantee you, that is not the Voodoo 5 holding back this K6. Definitely not. Oof. Oof, oof. Improve it, if we lower the resolution, we're only going to gain like maybe a half a frame, because it's not the card that's holding us back at this point. It is the CPU. Ryzen 9 3900 XT is here and says, "I'm late, can you catch me up?" Well, you missed it right at the start. I ran speed sys, you know, because I knew you'd want it. We are running a K62 Plus at 600 megahertz, which is 100 megahertz frontside bus times 6x multiplier. This K62 Plus is, you know, it's the successor to the K63, but it's the downgraded version, right? Because that was the 3 Plus was the successor. This is like the cheap version where they disabled half of the level 2 cache. Anyway, it's a whole thing. We basically got a CPU that's roughly equivalent to like a Pentium 2-ish, sorta. The FPU isn't quite as nice. Running at 600 megahertz, we've got level 1 cache on the chip, we've got level 2 cache on the chip, not a ton of it, but we've got it. And we've got level 3 cache on the motherboard, as you would normally find on a Socket 7 system. And then we've got 64 megs of SD RAM running at the 100 megahertz frontside bus speed. We're doing alright. We're doing alright. It's a pretty high performance system. Unfortunately, it is K6. It's showing its age here. Asking it to run Quake 3 is a bit much. The Voodoo is doing great. The Voodoo is doing great. Our video card is a Voodoo 5 5500. You have probably seen this one before. It's been on the stream a couple of times at this point. This was the donation from Garth Beagle. Very generously donated a Voodoo 5 to the channel. And it is a good runner. She runs strong, she's got great output, it's very clean. She works great. So I love to share it. Love to share it with y'all. Yeah, see, like we gained, what, 1.2 FPS by having our resolution. Yeah, no, it's not the card that's holding us back. Oh, it's not the card that's holding us back in this case. Not at all. So if we want this thing to go, like, to render as many frames as possible, we need a nice simple game. Right? Like, it needs to be something easy to run. Easy in terms of, like, the CPU. It needs to be easy for the CPU to run. So, like, simple physics, simple hit calculations. We're going to run Forsaken on it, because that makes sense. Why would you ever? I'm going to do generic 3D accelerator, because we're going to run this at 32-bit. If we run it with the 3DFX chipset preset, so this game is direct 3D. There's no glide mode in Forsaken, but all those options that I picked from on the dropdown are presets. They'll limit the size of your textures, or they'll limit your color depth or your Z depth in order to fit in with like cards available at the time, because not everybody implemented every feature in DirectX. Now we have the advantage of running a Voodoo 5, which implements all of DirectX 6 basically, other than I think environmental bump mapping. So we've got plenty of horsepower. So we'll run this. This one. Well, let's run it at 32-bit. Okay. Well, we'll run it at maximum resolution. All details are on. Mature content. That's when you blow up someone, all their brains come out. That's the mature content in this game. Cause that makes sense. Let's do... Yeah, no, that's fine. 565A RGBA is fine. Let's run... I like to run the nuke demo because it's a pretty complex demo. It's a little more complicated than like playing a single-player game. Because you've got, I think it's 8 people in this game. And the firefights can get pretty intense. But, so what is this going to be testing? Well, this is going to be testing single pipeline fill rate. There's no multi-texturing in this game. It's all vertex lighting and textures, single textures. But we've got a lot of alpha blending. A lot of alpha blending. We're running it at max res, trying to make it sweat, but yeah, that was basically like all of the alpha blending in this demo is like right there when you die and you're looking backwards as your flaming corpse drops down to the floor, the Voodoo didn't even crack a sweat. No worries. No worries. Usually I just use this to test like early cards, stuff like Trio 3D or the Matrox Mystique, because it's a pretty easy game for early graphics accelerators to run. This doesn't do a whole lot. Technically speaking, it doesn't do a whole lot, but this is just kind of whatever for the Voodoo 5. It really doesn't care. Raz9 says, "This is the nicest I've ever seen this game on your screen." Yeah. Yep, we're not using a cursed graphics card this time, right? Like most of the time when I'm on stream, I'm like, hey, look at this awful graphics card. Let's go try and run this terrible thing through its paces. Look at how bad this looks. And in this case, no, the Voodoo 5 is practically an image quality benchmark. It's so clean. It renders things so well. It is very nice. It does indeed make stuff look good. It sure does. It also helps that it has, you know, 4 pixel pipelines effectively with the 2 VSA 100 chips. I'm not even sure if this game uses the SLI on the card, the built-in SLI. There were some games that didn't. Some games had errors with the Voodoo 5 and couldn't run in SLI mode, so then you'd be running on one VSA 100, essentially being a Voodoo 4. But like even that, the Voodoo 4 is no slouch, and you're still talking about something like a TNT2 Ultra or so. It's not bad. Silver Leafman says, oh, I remember that one card you used, and it only ran well when you did the nauseating disabled texture position thing. Yeah, so, the S3 Verge technically can run this game at 60 FPS if you do the following things. Set the resolution to 320 by 240. Set the color depth to 16-bit. I think the Trio 3D could render in 32-bit, but the Verge couldn't, but you know, whatever. Same thing. And then you need to turn off bilinear filtering, because bilinear filtering has like a 2x performance penalty on the Verge. So you gotta turn off the texture filtering. You know, the whole reason you run a 3D card is to have, you know, filtered textures, the nice smooth, you know, nice smooth textures on everything. Now we'll turn that off. And then the thing that Silver Leafman's talking about, you gotta turn off the perspective correct texture mapping. Yes. Again, the thing you get a 3D card for, you know, perspective correct textures. It's like the whole thing that defines like a hardware accelerated 3D image is you have the nice smooth bilinear filtered textures and everything is perspective correct. You turn those two things off and the Verge runs it great. It runs this game fantastically. Solid 60 FPS. And yes, as Silver Leafman is alluding to, it's completely nauseating. It's awful. It looks so bad. It's hilarious, but it looks so bad. Alright, so we got, oh, we're running VSync. I accidentally left VSync on, so we got VSync FPS on that. Darn. I really wanted to see how many frames per second we can get out of this thing. I gotta turn off the VSync real quick. Ah. Hilarious. I'm gonna do, so next up in the video queue that I'm working on right now is the Matrox, the Mystique, and its successor. That's going to be my GPU June video, but I am also planning on, so I've got it here in my box of GPUs. I'm planning on looking at the Verge. I've got a whole bunch of copies of the Verge now. I've got like the original 325, I've got like 3 copies of the 325. I've got a GX, I've got a VX, and I've got the Trio 3D, which was the last version of the Verge. Not officially called a Verge, but it's the Verge core. It's the S3 Verge core, but they fixed a bunch of the bugs. So it actually like renders correctly. It's not any faster. It's not any faster, but it does at least render faster. And this is not gonna let me turn off VSync, is it? I need power strip. Darn it. Darn it, darn it, darn it. Let's see how many frames we can get out of this thing. Install. Where's my power strip stuff? Power strip 2.7. Oh, that's probably the right version. Maybe. Beautiful. Okay, maybe it's too old. What did I just click? Except what? Activate screens. Oh my god. Give me the... There's a... I have clearly not used this version of PowerStrip before. I didn't realize there is a refresh desktop button. Really? Here we go, that's what I want. I want the DirectX and OpenGL options. Gimme. Gimme. Oh, that sets a mode. Darn it. Here we go. Alright, refresh rate. You just stay on 60 hertz. That's not what I want. That's what I want. Why won't you open that monitor? Why won't you open that control panel? Crud. Here we go. Here we go. We just got it in our control panel. Maybe? Hmm. I'm missing this. There are a bunch of people yelling at me in the... Let's just anti-aliasing settings. Where do I turn off the VSync? I must just need a newer version of PowerStrip than this. That's frustrating. There it is. There it is, performance, of course. Okay. There we go. VSync should be off. Oh, let's try that again. I won't run the demo for the whole time. Y'all don't need to sit through that one again. It's like a 5-minute demo. And now it won't start. Really? Really? Alright, let me give this a reboot. See if that does it. It's been a long time. We've been going for over an hour without a reboot. That's it's too long. That's too long for Windows 98. Blake DMC has joined the stream. Hello, welcome. Oh, it just doesn't want to run now. Great. Wonderful. Why don't you want to run? Help me, XP Search Dog. Help me. I could use some Vaporwave to relax and study too. Oh, why is this not? Gotta love old computers, right? Why does it not want to run now? Install PowerDesk and or install PowerStrip, and suddenly it doesn't want to work. Why? Didn't change anything in here. Oh, Blake DMC asks, 3DFX mode doesn't work. So, this is a direct 3D game. There is no glide mode. These presets in here are just that. They're just presets. They live in here. These are just preset files. If we open this with Notepad, it's just a bunch of text. See, this is all this is. A map is enabled. You can do polygons for text instead of textures. You've got this much memory. You know, there's your maximum amount of memory available, and then it sets your resolution, your startup resolution. There isn't actually glide mode on this game, believe it or not. Now we can set this, because it'll set us back to like a normal resolution, but alright, well that works. Never mind. Uh-oh. Got a pop-up for 3D sound. Yeah, so it thinks we're running on a Voodoo 2, right? So we got max res of 800 by 600. I don't think it's running in glide. I didn't think it had a glide mode. The gamma's way weird, though. It certainly looks like glide gamma. Thank you, XP Search Dog. You can go away now. Thanks. Like it looks like, right? Am I seeing things? Like it looks like it's using that awful gamma from like the original Voodoo, which you can solve by setting your gamma in your auto exec to 1.0. Then the Voodoo, the original Voodoo, looks great. Oh, there's no sweat. No sweat for this thing. Alright, I'm gonna see what our maximum FPS is here. So if I quit back to the main menu, and then go back to load game, play demo, it'll show us what we got. Oh my gosh! 182 FPS! Alright, let's see. Maybe I can get this to run in a normal Direct 3D mode now. Will you work for me? Yes, you will. Fantastic. Silverleafman asks, was the Voodoo 2 the really dreadful one? No, the really dreadful Voodoo was... Why does this keep popping up with this positional audio? Weird. The really dreadful Voodoo... So by and large, the Voodoos were great, right? They were mostly fantastic. They were the fastest thing out there. Image quality was fine. And, you know, they were great. There was one bad one, though. There's one real stinker that 3DFX launched. I want to change my resolution here first. That stinker was the Voodoo Rush. Anybody remembers the Voodoo Rush? That was a very early attempt by 3DFX to make a combo 2D, 3D Voodoo. Because if you remember, the original Voodoo was a 3D only card. You had your separate 2D card, then you plugged in a Voodoo next to it, and then you like ran your display cable back and forth to the 2D card. So 3DFX's first attempt at making a combo 2D, 3D card was the Rush, where they took one PCB and they plopped a whole Voodoo onto it, and then they also put some random 2D card. There was like 3 different manufacturers they used to make this thing, and they were all awful. They're all awful. And then you had this issue, the biggest, like mostly they'd be fine, right? Like you usually have a 2D card and it like shuts off and goes, you know, deadhead mode when the Voodoo takes over, and that's fine. Except the 2D card usually stole Busmaster on your PCI bus, which meant that games couldn't address the Voodoo directly. So they had to go through the 2D card. It couldn't go deadhead mode. It had to stay alive and on the bus, and it had to shuttle messages back and forth from the CPU to the Voodoo, and it was so bad. It was super slow and really buggy, and it was just... They're one of the only 3DFX cards you can buy on eBay these days that are actually a reasonable price, because they suck. So here's, okay, so Blake DMC says 182 FPS on a Voodoo 5, that's crazy. I will bet you, we are still limited by the CPU. Even though we're running, you know, we're rocking the 600 megahertz K62 Plus, and we're running like the simplest game this thing can run that's 3D accelerated, I bet you we are still being held back by the CPU. I will bet you this run at 1024 by 768 will get an identical FPS number. I'll bet you. I will bet you. If this game is running both of these Voodoos, both of these VSA 100 chips on this thing, we're not even close to the maximum of what this card can put out. Not even close. Crypto CS guy says sucks, but still better than the graphics hardware in the Atari Jaguar. Yeah, I mean, yeah. Oh, oh, the Jaguar. What a, wow. Talk about not seeing the writing on the wall. Just like, let's just make another giant, confusing, weird, proprietary games console that is underpowered unless you program it absolutely perfectly. We've learned nothing from Sega. I wonder what the percentage of games on the Jaguar are that just execute their main program code on the 68,000 that's on it. Because I heard that was a thing. Most of the games, I don't know, most, whatever, a large number of the games on the Jaguar just run their program code on the 68,000. That was supposed to be like, you know, like a data shuttling coprocessor. Backwards compatibility, something like that. Ryzen 9 3900 XT says, is the Atari 2600 any good? I found one, I don't know how to fix it. Well, you're looking at, basically, like, the classic video game machine, right? Like, that was, after Pong, like the literal home Pong machine that Atari released. Like, that was the face of video games for years. It is a classic. Are the games on it any good? Yeah. I believe the 2600 has a total of 128 bytes of RAM, I think. I think it does technically do sprites. I want to say that they're like 16 by 16 pixels. It's real primitive. It's a classic, and it's, you know, it's a legend, borderline museum piece, right? Like, even just having one of the millions of copies of the thing that they made, it's, you know, it's a very important piece of video game history. It's also incredibly old. I don't know. I don't know, like, must-have games to play on the Atari 2600? I mean, you know, combat. You gotta have combat. Like, every single Atari 2600 has a copy of combat somewhere. Obviously, you gotta get the classic E.T. You know, the one that they buried in a they buried in a landfill in New Mexico. Frogger! That's a good point. Frogger is probably the killer app for the 2600, I think. Because that was a huge arcade game at the time, and to have, you know, to have an arcade port, that was the thing, right? Like, for most video game machines, when arcades were still a thing, having a home port of an arcade game was like the thing. Frogger was huge. Pac-Man, Miss Pac-Man, both huge games in the arcade. They both have 2600 ports. They're reasonable. Certainly not arcade perfect or anything, but they're reasonable ports. Okay, so we did actually go down in frames per second. I'm surprised. We went down to 137.17. So my guess, at 1024 by 768, my guess is that we're running on one of those VSA 100s. I'm going to guess that this game isn't using both of them. Because 137.17, like, we should be faster than that. We should be faster. But it's not bad. 130 FPS at 1024 by 768. It's not terrible. Not terrible. Blake GMC says, speaking of Frogger, I'd like to see you try Frogger 1997 on the Voodoo 5. Yeah, that'd be a good one to try. We are at an hour and a half. I don't have a network card in this machine. I don't really want to shut it off to download some stuff. What else? There's Pac-Man cereal and a cartoon. Pac-Man was a big deal. Pac-Man was a really big deal back then. Like a really big deal. Let's see, what else? I've got a bunch of stuff on here. Oh, we haven't run Half-Life. Obviously, we have to run Half-Life. That's like the game to run. So Half-Life was an interesting thing. Part of the reason, like, not just being like, a benchmark setting game, just from a game design standpoint at the time, it also ran on a lot of computers. Valve put some actual like technical effort into this thing. It's not just like a straight Quake 2 engine port. You've got options of like not just a software renderer, and like the software renderer is good. Like you've got colored lighting in the software renderer. Also, OpenGL, which makes sense. It's the Quake 2 engine, right? But also there's a Direct 3D engine option. Why is this asking me to just do it? I have DirectX installed. Shut up and do it. Half-Life, just do it. Hey, did you know you need drivers for this? Yeah, of course I do. Let's run this on default instead of the mini GL. Because this should run like a dream on this machine. But there's also Direct 3D. You run this on Direct 3D, which as far as I know, no other Quake 2 engine game could do. What it meant is you could run this on cards that otherwise wouldn't run Quake 2 or GL Quake, because having a good OpenGL driver back then was not a guarantee. It was not a guarantee. We'll run this at max res OpenGL default. Yep, that's great. Okay. That's fine. Done. Done. New game. Half-Life. Classic. Half-Life. But like, it was just a huge, huge game at the time. It's actually really funny, and I guess kind of a little tragic, that I never actually got into Half-Life back then. I don't know why. I don't know why I didn't. I get crushed by that. There we go. I know last time I demoed this, I got crushed by that beam. We're getting any audio. I'm not seeing any on here. It's very quiet, but there's audio back there. I don't have anything here that does A3D or EAX, unfortunately. Just got my my Yamaha YMF 744. But like this, now this setup minus the Voodoo, the Voodoo 5, which is kind of ridiculous. But like a K62 plus, running Half-Life, Quake 2, like Half-Life Deathmatch or original Counter-Strike, Team Fortress. Like this is perfectly right where it should be in terms of like anachronism. This is right in the correct era. Alright, Clarjon1's hopping out. Have a good one. I will see you later. It's another one where the mouse sensitivity is awful. Just awful. That's better. That's better. Gotta have that crowbar. Frame rate's not so great. Frame rate's not so great. That's pretty bad. Ouch. Now what is up with that? That's just awful. Is that bloom? I wonder if it's that bloom. Whoop. I have to get killed by the, you know, the actual game happening. I wonder if it is that bloom. No, it's something else. I don't know. Don't know what. Don't know what. Whoops. Too close. Too close. I'm surprised at how badly it's running. I'm surprised at how badly it's running. Let's try. I mean, we've got the Voodoo. Why not try the Voodoo? Do the 3D effects driver. The 3D effects mini driver, I think, can only go up to 800 by 600. I'm pretty sure. Let's see if it thinks. So if you had two Voodoo 2s in SLI, you could do 1024 by 768, right? Also, if you had a Voodoo 3, you do 1024 by 768. Oh, that's a crash. That's a crash, Unfortunate. Unfortunate. I always love how it asks me, like, are you sure you want to set this resolution when, you know, something has crashed and changed my resolution? What do you think? What do you think, Windows? What do you think I want? And I guess for our last trick, everybody hates expendable, but we're running on this thing anyway. Crank this up. Turn everything on. Now the benchmark I'm not expecting to be amazing because again, K62 at 600 megahertz. Oh, Resin 9, I think you've asked this before. Will an Athlon 64 2850E run Win98? I don't know. The problem isn't the CPU, it's the platform it's on. Because you gotta have drivers for your chipset and stuff, right? It's the drivers for the chipset that are going to determine whether it runs Windows 98 well or not. Or at all, or not. Oh yeah, this is so completely CPU limited. 24 FPS. Ouch. Ouch, ouch, ouch. Oh, oof. Blake DMC says I was late for Hydro Thunder. We can run Hydro Thunder real quick before I sign us off. I'll off. Dexter says, well, Half-Life is just a demanding 1998 game. It is. It is. They had, you know, they have a lot of options to run it on various hardware, but yeah, it was still a pretty demanding game. It certainly ran less well than Quake 2. There's a lot more going on in the engine. I don't see any glaring compatibility issues, so I'm not going to finish out this benchmark. But it looks like it's running great. It's too bad, you know, like, they finally made you know, 3DFX finally made a chipset that could do 32-bit rendering really nicely, like, really nicely. And then they died. Just unfortunate. This game was apparently ported to the PlayStation, the original PlayStation. I would love to see how bad that looks. Yikes. Alright. So, just for Blake DMC, we're going to run Hydro Thunder again. Because that's pretty fun. We did Arctic Circle last time. Let's do... I don't think I've ever raced on Greek Isles. Oh, I remember this thing. The Rad Hazard. Such a weird boat. Yeah, let's do it. Good old Rad Hazard. Yeah, I think its shtick is that it's low acceleration and high speed. That was its shtick. Oh, nope. The boost? No. Need boost. And this thing slides all over. I mean, it makes sense. We're like hovering over the water. Controllability is not tops on this. But I'm going to be way, way, way behind if I don't have any boost. Yes! Give me that boost! Plowing my way up through the... Oh, that's slow. Oh boy. We just loaded in the town. Boy, you could feel it. I think we dropped half of our frames there. Oof. Boost all the way to the finish. Hey, 4th place. Hey, 4th place. It's better than last race. Crypto CS guy says, would you ever test games on the Intel CPUs that weren't x86 based, the failed architectures? Well, I've been thinking about trying to get my hands on an Itanium, because it'd be funny, but they're also like, care and feeding of an Itanium is a lot. It's a lot. And their x86 emulation is not amazing. It would be pretty funny. It would be pretty funny. But other stuff like Intel's RISC chips, like the i860, i960, you can't run anything on them. They mostly got used as DSPs back in the day, because they had really good floating point performance, but you know, they run a completely different architecture than x86. Tidal Blade. Yup. Hydro Thunder's good stuff. I think I'm going to be playing more of that in the future, because it's one of my favorites. One of my absolute favorites. Alright, so I think that's going to be it for today. Let me turn this thing off because it's loud, and let me change cameras. Alright, I hope everybody had a good time. I hope you liked the stream, and I hope it was fun, and maybe educational. Who knows? But yeah, that's the Voodoo 5 versus the fastest that Super Socket 7 has to offer. Unfortunately, still being held back by the CPU. Still being held back by the CPU, unfortunately. But this isn't the last we'll see of the Voodoo 5. It's just such a fun card. It's such a weird, anachronistic slice of history, right? Like, what if, right? What if they had gotten the Voodoo 5 out a year earlier, 6 months earlier, right? Boy, it would have been cool. Anyway, I hope everybody's had fun. I hope you've had a wonderful stream, and I will talk to y'all in the future. May the PC parts be ever in your favor. Have a good night.